So I think the fitness industry has taken a turn in the right direction since the upper-lower split has been getting a lot of love recently. In fact, let me explain why I think the upper-lower split is the most underrated workout split for building muscle, and why for most individuals, in my opinion, the upper-lower split is the best workout split considering people's time and schedule. So let's get into that. So first, I'm going to briefly explain what the upper-lower split is, and then I'm going to go into the 5 factors that go into a truly optimized workout split for maximizing muscle growth. And lastly, I'm going to compare the upper-lower split to those 5 factors. So the upper-lower split is a workout split where you divide your training days into 2 categories, either your upper body or your lower body. Meaning on an upper body day, you can pretty much train any muscle group within the upper body. Now on the flip side of that, on a lower body day, you can train pretty much any muscle group in your lower body, aka a leg day. All right, so now that we understand what an upper-lower split is, let's go into the 5 factors that go into a truly optimized workout split for building muscle. Let's get into the first one. Now, the first factor that goes into a truly optimized workout split is, for one thing, it has to fit your schedule. Remember, a workout split is only as effective as your ability to actually show up to one. If you're missing workouts, no matter how good the split is, then obviously you're gonna run into issues, because factor number 2 is an optimized workout split will allow you to hit every single muscle group with enough volume. A good rule of thumb is aiming for 8 sets per muscle group per week. However, in many cases, you might find that you're gonna be well over the 8 sets minimum, and that is completely okay because it's merely a minimum. You should consider the entire range to be roughly 8 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. And keep in mind, you can even count muscle groups that are trained secondarily, such as the triceps on a bench press, as half a set, meaning 1 set of bench press will equal half a set for triceps. Also, by the way, if you're looking for nice gym clothes or you want to support my page, I highly recommend you check out Able. Is my clothing sponsor. They have a lot of high quality, minimalistic style gym wear for honestly the price of Gymshark. Think of it as quality of Alphalete, price of Gymshark. That's a good comparison. Now the third factor is an ideal workout split will allow you to train every single muscle group at least twice per week. Evidence has shown that increasing the frequency of training a muscle group from once per week to twice per week is advantageous for hypertrophy. And this makes intuitive sense because if you're providing the muscle a stimulus more often, then theoretically it should lead to more muscle group, right? In fact, I would go further than just twice per week if possible and say that if you train a muscle group 3 times per week, that is also probably better than training the muscle group only twice per week, because again, you're providing a stimulus in a more consistent cadence. And this is of course barring any complications that might arise from doing too much volume, which actually brings me to my next factor. Factor number 4 is an optimized workout split should allow you to try to minimize fatigue so you can continue to train at a high level and progressive overload over the long term consistently. Now think of fatigue as the byproduct of training hard. A very common sign of fatigue is soreness. Now ideally, if you get sore after a workout, by the next time you hit that same muscle group, that soreness should subside, or else it's going to impact your performance to actually train that hard in that future session. So understanding how to decrease that fatigue at the workout programming level becomes really important. And keep in mind, soreness is not the only sign of fatigue. Other signs of fatigue might be you actually getting weaker on the exercise, or even less obvious than that, a lack of progress despite being relatively newer in the gym. And factor number 5 is that the workout routine should allow you to consistently train close to failure and aim to progressive overload over time. And this goes for pretty much all the exercises, not only the first exercise you're doing of that day. Now, if volume was the quantity part of your workout, think of training close to failure as the quality part. Ideally, you want to be trained close to failure because it maximizes the mechanical attention experienced by the muscle, and mechanical attention is in fact the main driver of muscle growth, so you want to optimize for that. And I guess a bonus 6th factor would be an optimized workout shouldn't take too long. Now, I think a good rule of thumb for pretty much all natural lifters is you want to keep your workout under the 2-hour mark, because I feel like if you drag your workout too long, either you're just doing way too much volume or you're probably just not engaged and you're on your phone or something. Now keep in mind, 2 hours is kind of just an arbitrary number I'm throwing out. The whole idea is you want to make your workout somewhat efficient from a time perspective, and once you start passing the 45-minute mark, I feel like there's going to be a decline in your overall focus and energy for that workout. Now if you're thinking, Tyler, I do not know how to have a good workout that is under 2 hours. That just doesn't seem possible. Well, I will tell you it is in fact possible. Now if you're looking to take the guesswork out of getting to your fitness goals, I highly recommend you apply to my exclusive one-on-one fitness coaching program, where I'll create a custom workout program for you, custom nutrition advice, track your weekly progress to make sure that you're heading in the right direction, as well as pretty much answer all the questions you might have. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out the link in the description. Hope to see y'all there. All right, so now that we understand what goes into a truly optimized workout split for building muscle, let's see how the upper-lower split compares to those 6 factors. With that said, let me take out my pump cover. All right, let's get to factor number 1. Now, in terms of factor number 1, the upper-lower split requires at least 2 days in the gym. Because naturally, if you're splitting your body between upper body and lower body, well, logically, you're gonna need 2 days. But realistically, if you wanna optimize your training, I'd recommend 4 days per week with the upper-lower split, and that is upper, lower, upper, lower. But considering that you do have the option of only training twice per week, I would give the upper-lower split an overall A- on this factor, because I don't think training 2 times per week is that big of a commitment. I feel like most people will have the time to do that. And when it comes to factor number 2, the upper-lower split does allow you to train every muscle group 8 sets per week. Now, admittedly, if you're only going twice per week, having all 8 sets per muscle group in that one day can be pretty tough, but if you bump your workout days to 4 times per week, now it is much more doable to hit that 8-set minimum. Adding to that, if you're doing 6 times per week, even better, especially if you're incorporating a lot of compound movements that are gonna involve multiple muscle groups in that one exercise, and antagonistic supersets where you're stringing in 2 exercises that are involving opposite muscle groups in that superset. These are all ways to make your workout more efficient, but the caveat here is you're probably gonna wanna be more organized because it can get a little bit messy trying to remember everything in your head, which is ultimately why I recommend if you're gonna do an upper-lower split, you write things down so you're making sure that you're actually getting enough volume per muscle group, because there's no way you're gonna like remember it in your head, or you can have someone trusted make that workout program for you, or at least look it over. Man, I wonder who that trusted person can be. So ultimately, for factor number 2, the upper-lower split gets a B rating because while it is doable, it is going to require more organization. Now, when it comes to factor number 3, the upper-lower split can allow you to train every muscle group at least twice per week if you're training at least 4 times per week. Now, if you're coming from a bro split or a PPL split, think of the upper-lower split as you're taking what you would usually do in one workout day, but you're dividing it across 2 or even 3 different workout days. So if you're doing a 6-day upper-lower split, you might even be able to train the muscle group 3 times per week instead of 2. So ultimately, because it is quite easy to train every muscle group twice per week on upper-lower split, requiring only 4 days, the upper-lower split will get an A rating when it comes to this factor. Now, when it comes to factor number 4, the upper-lower split is quite easy at managing fatigue. In fact, it might be the easiest workout split to actually manage fatigue at the workout programming level. Now, in my opinion, at the program level, the easiest way to manage fatigue is by allowing every single muscle group at least 48 hours of rest before training it again. And because the upper-lower split is generally binary in nature, meaning you're flip-flopping between upper body, lower body, and those exercises involved are generally mutually exclusive, it is quite easy to fulfill that 48 hours of rest requirement. But it doesn't just stop there. In fact, I think the upper-lower split can be very, very good at managing fatigue within the workout itself. Now, this is ultimately because the upper-lower split allows you to jump from muscle group to muscle group within the workout. In fact, that is actually how I recommend you order your workouts. You shouldn't be doing like all the chest exercises in the beginning and then moving on to back. Like, no, you should be mixing it around because this is gonna allow the muscle group to rest. In other words, it is very hard to accumulate jump volume on an upper-lower split if you are structuring the workouts properly. And this is why it becomes very important to make sure that you're methodically ordering the exercises in a certain way. You don't want to just put all your chest exercises in the beginning of the workout, or else you're just going to overly fatigue your chest. Instead, ideally you want to be spreading the volume across different muscle groups throughout the workout so that one muscle group is never going to be overly fatigued from an earlier exercise. For example, let's say your chest volume consists of 3 sets of bench press, 3 sets of incline dumbbell bench press, and then 3 sets of pec deck flies per week. Now, instead of doing these exercises back to back like a bro split, you can do 3 sets of bench on upper day 1, 3 sets of incline on upper day 2, and 3 sets of pec deck flies on upper day 3. This way, you're gonna feel a lot more fresh every single time you do chest, which obviously increases the likelihood of you being able to hit a new PR and train hard. And by the way, you can do this for pretty much any muscle group in your upper or lower body, not just chest, which is ultimately why the upper-lower split gets an S rating for this factor. Now, because you ultimately can manage your fatigue pretty well on an upper-lower split, when it comes to factor number 5, the upper-lower split is also a great workout split for programming progressive overload. Now, this was kind of explained in the last point, but ultimately because in some cases you're only doing 1 exercise per muscle group in that one workout day, you obviously can push it way harder. You're just gonna have an easier time progressive overloading on the upper-lower split, even on the very last exercise in your workout, because there's less of a chance that you were doing any direct volume for that muscle group even earlier in your workout. Now compare that to a PPL or a bro split where you're gonna have majority, if not all of your training volume all within one day for a muscle group. And it's like, by the time you get to your third or fourth chest exercise, like your chest is probably pretty toast. The likelihood of you being able to hit a PR is probably pretty slim, unless you dogged the workout earlier, but then that's a zero-sum game. Now because of this, the upper-lower split gets another S rating for this factor. Now when it comes to bonus factor number 6, the upper-lower split may require longer workouts. Now I know this whole time it may seem like I've been glazing the upper-lower split, but no, I'm just really laying out the facts here. And the fact of the matter is, if you're only gonna be doing a 2-day upper-lower split, your workouts are probably gonna have to be longer than 1 hour. However, if you're talking about a 4-day, 5-day, or a 6-day upper-lower split, then okay, now you're able to divide the training volume across multiple days. It's gonna be easier to cap it at that 1 hour mark. But ultimately, the upper-lower split will get a C rating when it comes to this fact. Those were these 6 factors, but let's talk about the most controversial aspect of the upper-lower split, and that is the fact that if you're doing an upper-lower split, you're probably not gonna be able to get the best pump with it. Naturally, if you're gonna be jumping from muscle group to muscle group throughout your workout, you're not gonna be able to get as good of a pump compared to a bro split or a PPL split. But the good news is that if you're trying to maximize muscle growth, the pump is not directly correlated with building muscle. Instead, what is far more important to focus on if you're trying to maximize muscle growth is 1, you're training close enough to failure, which is effort. 2, the amount of sets you're doing per week, not per day, which is training volume. And 3, you're training the muscle group at least twice per week, which is frequency. And I'd actually even play devil's advocate and say with the upper-lower split, if you miss a workout day, you're not completely missing out on the volume for the entire muscle group. And you're probably still gonna be providing enough of a stimulus from your other workouts to at least like maintain the strength of that muscle group. Compare that to missing a workout on a bro split where if you miss chest day, well, you missed your entire chest volume for the week. So all in all, you can build muscle on a different split. I'm not denying that. But hopefully this video has opened your eyes on at least trying the upper-lower split out and seeing if you personally like it. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you got any value from it, drop a like. It is the easiest way to support my page for completely no cost to you. And if you want to further support my page and help me continue make these videos, consider using code PATH@ABLE and code TPATH@MyProtein for a discount as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.